Welcome to Wanderlust and Wishes, the podcast where we explore the world one destination at a time.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Krystle.
As travel agents with fantastical vacations, we are here to share our passion for travel and help you turn your wanderlust into reality.
From hidden gems to bucket list adventures, join us as we dive into the sights, sounds, and stories of our favorite destinations.
So grab your passport, pack your bags, and let's embark on this journey together. Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 14 of Wanderlust and Wishes. Today, we are going to cover traveling with kids. And we're going to kind of skip over news because we've been a little bombarded with so much news recently. So we thought we would just kind of get right into the content today. Krystle has littles, 3 under 8 that she has traveled with extensively. I have traveled with my girls. My girls are a little bit older, so I'm going to kind of be throwing in things here and there, but this is mostly going to be me asking questions and Krystle going through her tips because she's the pro. I wish that I had had a travel advisor like Krystle to help me when my kids were little because she's so much smarter than me. And she's got all these tips. Seriously, you have all these cool things that you do that are so smart that I did not necessarily do. So, okay. So,
disclaimer, I haven't had a voice for over a week, so sorry, I sound bad, but we're going with it.
Yeah, you really don't sound. I know that you think that you do, but you don't sound as bad as you think that you do. Okay. So, moving into the content, we're just going to start off in general. Why is it so important to travel with kids? So, what are your thoughts on that?
They just become such better adults. Like the life skills and like becoming well-rounded and like those street smart skills, it may require some extra logistical steps, but it's so beneficial. Travel with your kids.
And it really is too, just giving them that cultural knowledge of wherever you're going, giving them that extra cultural knowledge of the United States if you're traveling to different areas of the United States. And then obviously abroad, if you go to another country, it gives them, like you said, that kind of that street smarts. So when I said earlier that you have traveled extensively and you have definitely wrangled all 3 of them in some pretty difficult situations from a traveling perspective. So what's your experience with traveling with your kids?
Okay, so I will claim that I'm pretty good at a lot of things, but not many things am I pro at, except for traveling. And that's because we live across the country from my family. So my kids have been flying and traveling their entire lives. Harper, she was my youngest flyer, and her first flight, we waited till she was a month old, just per his recommendations.
Yeah.
She ended up having 3 different round trips in her first 4 months of life. So these were some extenuating circumstances. And I don't think I'd recommend like flying by yourself at 1 month post C-section. But by then, like I was already a pro at this. So I was prepared, and it wasn't horrible. I had help on 1. Coming back the first time with 2 was a little bit crazy, but
stressful.
We did it. So I've always just been a huge proponent of traveling with your kids. I don't think that just because you have kids should stop you from traveling and exploring.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in June, when I went to Cancun, was the first time that I have flown by myself since I've had kids. I felt like I was lost a limb. I didn't know what to do without pushing a stroller or without getting a bunch of kids through security. So I don't know. It's just something we've always done. And it's not just once or twice, it's multiple times a year.
One of my husband's goals is to visit all of the national parks. And so we obviously travel to Disney. We love to go to Disney, but we also like to travel around the United States. And that's something that those experiences I definitely want to give to my girls. I think that's like you were saying, I think that's a great way for them to be well-rounded, to understand that where they live in their little bubble is not the way everyone else lives and it's not the way everything else is. So,
And I would much rather collect memories than things.
yes, for sure. Speaking of traveling, just in general, sometimes we have the option to drive, but as you mentioned, your family is across the United States from you. It's not something that you could drive to easily. So, flying with kids, what is I'm sure your recommendation is to do direct flights, but what happens, how do you deal with layovers if you do have to have a layover?
Yes, direct flights, if at all possible. My pocketbook for a family of 5 cannot always afford a direct flight,
Right.
or where we're flying into doesn't offer a direct flight from our home airport. So I'll try to opt for smaller airports. And I guess this has probably just come from time. I've been in a lot. So, like, I'm going to avoid at all costs Houston and Atlanta just because something always goes wrong. They're so
Yeah.
big. Always just kind of like when I was so story in June when I was flying to Cancun, I was flying into Minnesota, I believe it was. I never been in that airport before. I had a short layover. I had 40 minutes. It was tight. So it was so tight that I even questioned doing it from like booking that layover for myself. But I figured if I need to sprint the whole way, I can. But if I have to sprint the whole time with littles in tow, that's not going
Yeah.
to work.
Yeah. It's not happening.
So, and I'm lucky I didn't have my kids because I ended up getting on some odd shuttle bus. They took me across the runways to another terminal. I would have had to break down my stroller. I wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
So I like to look for layovers that are about 2 hours, enough cushion that you can get to your next gate or account for any delays, but not too long that you're like sitting there trying to entertain for hours and hours and hours because you're
Right.
already entertaining all day long.
Right. I think another tip, if you're gonna, especially if you have a layover, booking the earliest flight that you can, that's possible, because the later into the day that you get, the more possibility that you're gonna have a delay, which would then delay your net. If you have a layover, then it's going to delay you getting to your destination for your layover. And then that could potentially, cause you to not meet that next flight and cause more delays, and just it becomes a mess. So just in general, obviously with kids, it's even more important, but in general, booking the earlier flight is going to be your best bet, just based on the way that the airlines have been recently.
Yes. And I will say, also just try to think logistically about it. So my family is in Utah, and I could fly into Salt Lake or I could fly into Vegas. We kind of have that luxury of we can kind of hop between airports.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's during Christmas, I am not going to choose the flight into Salt Lake via Denver if there is a flight into Vegas via Phoenix because of the snow and like the
Right.
possibility of that getting canceled.
Yeah.
I would rather have better chances going the warmer route. So just kind of if you have two options, kind of think about through both of them.
The weather situation. Yeah, for sure. So what about the ticket situation whenever your baby is, or your little is 2 or younger? Because you have that option to buy a ticket or not buy a ticket.
So I would always check like the policies. There are some airlines that when you go international make you have a ticket for a baby. But domestically, babies under 2 are considered a lap child and you do not need a separate seat. Some parents choose to buy an extra seat for a car seat, but
Mhm.
it's a personal decision. I'm cheap. I don't.
We didn't buy a ticket for Ella when she flew when she was a baby.
Well, in that like 18-month stage to 2, it's rough to have a lap child in that small confined space. But we've always flown Southwest and we've because that you could kind of stretch out if they weren't full, but I've heard that they're going away from that. So
Hmm.
that makes me really sad.
Yeah. I think that I think Rob wore Ella in a baby Bjorn. She was in his lap, but like kind of quote unquote in his lap. Like she was, I think they let him.
Probably.
wear
It's
her
possible.
in a baby carrier. And that way, because she was a wiggly worm, and so that way she was kind of contained and she couldn't wiggle out of his lap whenever we were on the plane. So what are some other things that you recommend just in general preparing for plane or airline travel?
Talk to your kids about it beforehand. Just like show them books, point out the plane in the sky, like pretend play. I think Daniel Tiger has an airplane episode. Just like it's make it a part of your everyday conversation.
Yeah.
Like, hey, like go to the library and practice inside voices, or just like little things like that are going to help you, and it not just be like this night and day difference. Like if you start working it in beforehand, it's going to make it
Yeah.
easier for you.
Yeah. I think there are some YouTube videos that people have put out there just to help like walk kids through what it looks like, just to give them an idea of what the inside of the plane looks like and what it looks like walking into the plane and that kind of thing. So if you can find those kinds of things, those help as well. I think that if you have the ability to do it, and I don't really know any reason why you wouldn't, TSA PreCheck is the bomb diggity.
Saves my life.
My daughter that just turned 13, we're going to have to go get her a pre-check number because I think it's after 12. So I actually need to get busy because we're going to be flying in October. So I need to get Lena set up.
Yeah, do that. So it's valid for 5 years. It's like $78 or something. And children 12 and under are, as long as they're with you, they like qualify
Yep.
with you. And with TSA PreCheck, you have your own line. It's usually a lot shorter. You don't have to take out all your liquids, your electronics. You can leave on a jacket. You can leave on your shoes. You can leave on a belt. So as you can see, it just makes
Amazing.
it so much easier, especially when you're wrangling children, to not
Mm-hmm.
have to worry about their shoes or your shoes or all those things.
Yeah. And even if the line looks long even with TSA PreCheck, it goes by so much quicker because you just are basically just going right straight through the line. They're just checking your ID and checking your ticket and you just go through. So it doesn't take as long, even if the line seems longer when you first walk up.
So I will say, I still get pulled when I'm on TSA PreCheck, but this is because if you have a baby with you, you can take through a water bottle full of water. You can take through breast milk. You can take through baby food pouches. You can take through juice. And usually they're more than the 3 ounces that are allowed. So I will get pulled, but I have learned that if they find a water bottle in your big backpack full of stuff, they're going to pull everything in that bin and go through every zipper and every compartment and unpack it all. So if you are doing this, just maybe throw it all in a Ziploc baggie and just put it in its own bin.
Yeah.
They will look at it. They'll probably still pull it. They will do like the little test strip, or they'll like wipe it and then wipe your hands and test it. But it's a lot quicker. It goes a lot smoother than them having to go through every single pocket.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also, it really does depend on your
Airport and where you're at.
and your airline. It really, like, we have had super great experience flying, which now I need to knock on wood because I'm saying this, but we've had a great experience flying out of Charlotte. They are very easy to work with, very quick and super nice, but we have not had that same experience coming back. So wherever we've flown to and we've had to deal with coming back, it's just not always the same. And they give you a harder time sometimes at the other airports.
Well, and even in the same airport. So in Nashville, when I was stuck overnight, they sent me out of security to get my bag. Luckily, I had everything in it that I could have carried it on. I just had too many bags. I went through security 3 times that night. And the first 2 times, they didn't blink an eye. The third time, she opened up my big suitcase and went through everything just
Yeah.
because she was like on a kick.
Yeah.
But so it just depends. So it's always better to be like prepared. Don't try to like fight them or hide it because it'll make things worse for you.
As much as you want to have an attitude, it's never doesn't help to have an attitude for sure. So what are your thoughts on traveling with car seats if you need to travel with a car seat? It's been quite a while since I've had to do this, but I remember when we did, it was a big pain.
They still are a pain.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not like bagging on car seats. Like I know that they're important and they are like a necessity, but they are the most tricky and logistic nightmares. If your baby is still in a carrier, take it. That's going to be the easiest. Even if they've just come out of a carrier, like until they're 2 years old, use the
Yeah.
like the rocking carrier. Take
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You can either check it with your luggage for free, or you can also check it at the gate, also for free. It'll just make things easier for transportation on the other side. They do have little travel boosters, which is what we use for our older kids. It's the high back booster with the 5-point harness that is always the issue. So from like age like 2 to 6-ish.
Yeah. When you have to have the high back.
So there are a couple of travel systems out there. I've highly considered it, but they are also $400 or $500. So
Yeah.
unless I was doing something like international where I needed it for a long period of time,
Yeah.
I haven't pulled the trigger. So there are some options. Check it since they're free, but you run the chance of losing it or it being damaged. A lot of bloggers will suggest like getting a car seat bag and stuffing it full of diapers and gear, and airlines are like cracking down on this and charging and fining you if you find this. So I've never risked it and I don't encourage it. So just side note on that. You can rent one. There are places like AAA, if you rent a car through them, sometimes they offer a free car seat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some companies just offer the car seat to be rented for like $25 a day. So if you have one kid, that's fine. But 3 kids, you're
Yeah.
getting $100 a day.
Yeah. Adds up.
You could borrow one. This is what we try to do, but it also helps because we're visiting family. So like if we're doing this a lot, it might be worth buying one and keeping it with your family. But like now, our family's getting too big for someone to come pick us up from the airport. So even if they had one, we would have like 3 hours of from the airport to their house. Like, how would we get it? Like, it's not worth them coming to the airport if we're gonna rent a car and drive.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It makes it hard.
yeah. When we go to Disney, we use a transport company that provides them in Orlando, or if you're going to Port Canaveral with like a cruise.
Yeah.
And then like once you're in the bubble, you don't need it. And then you have minivans if you need it because they have seats. Ubers aren't always guaranteed. So I know people carry them and I know people, you just kind of got to find what's right, the balance for you. Because maybe your kid at home, you still use a high back booster, but maybe they're close enough to the weight, like for a transport from like the airport to a resort where you're not going to use
Yeah.
it. If they're a pound off from going to just the booster and maybe you just got a travel booster.
Yeah.
So you just kind of need to weigh those. I know that like in popular cities, there are companies that rent them out, like with strollers and with pack and plays and stuff. But that's the most logistical nightmare of my traveling.
Yeah. What about strollers? Kind of same thing with the stroller, or is the stroller? I know you can take the stroller. Basically, you can take it up to the gate and ask them to check it at the gate if you want to bring your stroller. I hated strollers. Like I hated them. I hate them. They were such a pain to me. Just like in general, like just in life, not in traveling.
So we're big stroller people. We have one umbrella stroller that has flown with us thousands and thousands and thousands of miles. We still have it. We got it when Calder was born. His little carrier seat would clip into it,
Uh-huh.
but it also fold up really small. But it's like more of like a heavy duty umbrella stroller, not like the
Right.
little tiny flimsy
Yeah.
ones. We've taken our double, and now I have this new one that is supposed to fit in the overhead compartment that I'm going to try out next time for Reef.
Oh, that's nice.
So there are options, and I never check it with my luggage. I will always take it through the airport with me.
Mhm.
And I go to the little gate agent and ask for a gate check tag because you need it on your layover, or you want it to be guaranteed that it's right there to get you through the airport instead of carrying your children
Yeah,
to
and then
the
having
airport
and
for
then
hours.
having to go get it at the luggage pickup. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so it is free. Just take it to the bottom of the jetway and fold it up, and then it will be there when you get off. When you are asking your little gate agent for your stroller gate check tag, ask about family boarding. Depending on the airline, sometimes they'll announce family boarding, but most of the time you can request it. So like Southwest, it's between group A and group B. Some, if they see you, they'll just come tell you. But a
Hmm.
lot, unless you're like physically asking, they just ignore it because it takes time. So
Yeah,
just ask for it, because to have a little extra time
yeah,
will save your bacon.
yeah. That is nice.
So if you are a baby wear your baby, because during security, they won't make you take the baby out. If you have a stroller, they'll make you take the baby out of the stroller and fold it up and put it through the security gate. But with this, I always do my stroller first, because nothing's worse than like trying to like wrangle all your bags and all your kids and trying to hold a kid. So if you put your stroller through first, then you have somewhere to set your kid down while you're getting bags
The
off.
other bags.
Dealing with all that.
I'm very, I don't know what the right word is. I don't want to say envious because that sounds like that has like a negative connotation. I'm in awe of your ability to do all of the things you do with strollers because I was so bad with them. And maybe I was just using the wrong stroller because, when we talked about Disney, packing for Disney and everything that you put in that stroller and how you have it all organized, that's just amazing to me because that's just not it was just too much for me. It was too overwhelming. So,
Well, they do make them a lot better now, and I I've never been one to spend $1,000 on a stroller, but I also had like specific specifications that I wanted, because I know I wanted it to hold up.
yeah, right. Okay. So now that we're through from a plane airline, at the airport, we're through the airport, we're on the plane. How do we get through the flight? Especially if it's like a 3 or 4 hour flight, or like you were saying, it's kind of, you have to deal with the layovers. You have to deal with, you're in the plane more than once. You have a longer than just like an hour stint in the plane.
Well, if you made it through security, that's the most stressful. So congratulations. I will say, on travel days, I start the morning and I just, all day in my head, I'm just chanting, surviving, not thriving, surviving, not thriving, because all expectations are out the door and you're simply surviving. So I break it down into like, okay, we made it to ticketing. We're getting to security. Okay, we made it through security. Everybody go to the bathroom. Okay, we made it. Do we need food? Okay, like let's go find our gate. And it's just like little chunks, and it makes it more doable.
Right. Yeah, it's like running a marathon. You do 1 mile at a time, not think about the whole thing.
In flight, I'm gonna ruffle some feathers, because all the mommy bloggers I don't agree with all the things that they tell you to bring, because you're already juggling. Like, so technically you can bring a diaper bag, you can bring a carry-on, and you can bring a personal item. So you can technically have 3 bags. Plus, if your kids are ticketed, they can each have 2 bags. Do not take all that many bags.
Yeah,
Like
that's a
it's
lot.
it's so hard.
That's too
Um,
much.
it is too much. So I try to simplify it as much as you can, but I still like to have a couple different options. I go to the dollar spot or the dollar store and
Hmm.
get little surprise toys. Involve the kids. Let them help you pick them out. Get them excited about it. I have a hard rule of I don't take anything that's special to them except for maybe a stuffy. I'm not taking Calder's favorite Lightning McQueen car, because it's going to be rolling to the back of the plane and it's lost forever.
Yeah.
I also don't take anything that's going to be messy. I don't take Play-Doh. I don't take slime. I don't take like all these things that people recommend. I don't even take markers, because I spent one whole flight trying to keep my child from riding on me and from them and on the seat back in front of us and on there. the neighbor next to us, I spent the hour trying to like keep them from writing on everything or
Yeah, I
scrubbing
don't.
it off.
I'm anti marker, anti slime. I don't. It was a long time before I even allowed slime to be in my house, like much less take it with me on a plane because it's a nightmare. So,
Yes. So I really like the Water Wow books
oh yeah,
and the Color Wonder books. So the Color Wonder, you have 4 or 5 markers
but
that
they're
are
not
clear.
markers. They
No, they're
only work on
clear.
that paper.
Yes. So if she's coloring all over her leg, no harm done. The Water Wow, you do have to be a little more prepared because you need a little bit of water, and then it's the same 5 pages, but it entertains them.
Yeah.
So I always have like the little bag of new little travel specific toys. And then my big one at my house, my kids aren't allowed an iPad or even they don't even play on our phones. But when we are traveling, all that's out the door. iPads all day. I
Yeah.
try to prolong them as long as possible and like get the toys out of the way before the iPads come out. But iPads are heaven sent. And we
Yes.
pre-download content the night before because like both Netflix and Disney you can download so that's viewable
Mhm.
offline. But like Netflix, it expires like after 48 hours. So I always have to do it on my way back too. So don't do it like a week in advance thinking it's gonna work.
They also now well, I guess I shouldn't say most because I don't know, but I know American because that's what we fly. They have the Wi-Fi that you can use it's just their network. And they have all kinds of stuff, and it's not just adult. I mean, there's kids movies that you can watch and you don't have to, if you forgot to download something or whatever, they're going to have plenty of stuff that the kids can watch while they're on the plane. And you can just connect to their Wi-Fi for that, which is really nice.
Yes. I'd also say if you wanted to do an activity, maybe do like a shoelace and some Fruit Loops and Cheerios and make them string them for 20 minutes.
Oh gosh.
Then they could eat it. But even that's a
Yeah,
little
I'm
too
such a bad mom. I'm like, just here's the iPad. I just like take the iPad. And my kids are still like they are snack just
Mhm.
snack monsters. They love their snacks. So if I even if I a lot of times, obviously when they're little, you can really bring their snacks beforehand. But for whatever reason, they think it's the best thing ever to like pick out a snack at the airport, whatever. I mean, it's more expensive there. Fine. I don't care. Just pick out a snack. And that's what they have on the plane. And they watch their iPad and eat their snack and they're fine.
Yes.
Obviously, now they are 11 and 13, but this is always how they've been. And
And I would say like my kids, it's like on summer break, like all of a sudden they need to eat every 20 minutes.
exactly. And this
Uh,
keeps them busy.
yes. So I really like the prepackaged snacks. The prepackaged is key because it kind of like, oh, you're done with that fruit snack. Let's wait 5 minutes or let's play with this toy for a minute and kind of get them through to the next one. And also, I don't know if you've ever dealt with like a giant bag of goldfish being dumped all over you and all over a plane and just everywhere. So the
I've dealt
smaller
with
the
that.
better.
Yeah, keeps them from getting a mess. I
Yes. So it's a good way to control and bribe and all the things.
Yeah, you have to be careful too with drinks and the type of lid that you have. If there's any way that you can have a lid doesn't that keeps them from spilling it everywhere. I did have, which this was a total accident, and this was only a couple years ago. My daughter, my youngest daughter, she put her Starbucks, which was she gets the cookie crumble cream version. So it's lots of chocolate and cookie and whipped cream and just sugar, just mess. She put it in the side of my backpack
Oh
and I didn't
no.
realize it. So as soon as I lifted my backpack to put it in the overhead bin,
All down you.
dumped all over me and all over the floor and all over my other daughter. And that was the start of our trip.
I'm sorry.
We had the best flight attendant though. Like she came like swooping in and just like helped clean up. And she, she's like, it's fine. Everything, it's a great trip. This is not a big deal. And so, because Ella was upset because she did it, she put it in the pocket. Lena was upset because it got all over her shoes. It was all over me, and I felt bad because it was on the floor and people were having to walk through it. It was just, yeah, it was a whole thing. So yes.
We really like the character cup drinks from like the gas station.
Oh yeah, you've told me about those, that you get them each one.
Yeah, let them pick one out. Your mileage will vary on if you can get them through security or not. Full. I had some in my bag that we went through 4 different securities before they finally said you need to dump these out. But I wanted the cup because they are like a sippy and they don't spill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
And they're also kind of small. So if they're, your kids are like mine, they'll drink the entire thing and then have to go to the bathroom. So
Harper.
it's small enough that they have a drink, they have something to sip on, but it's not, too much.
Yeah. Some airlines, as we're on snacks, they will have, you can ask for a lid for their cups. Some airlines do not offer lids.
Interesting.
Which drives me batty, but some will if you ask. And just even a straw on a lid with a 1-year-old with an empty cup, just playing with it, 20 minutes of entertainment.
I was going to say hours of fun. Also, and thankfully, I really didn't have to deal with this very much because my girls were older. We did have a couple of trips when they were young, but for the most part, it was after they were in diapers. But how do you deal with, the diaper situation, especially if you're on a longer flight?
Okay, so when I am on a flight, I take a backpack because hands-free, nothing better. When the kids are old enough, they carry their own backpacks. But in every single backpack, I have diapers because even though I will like order diapers to our destination or I'll pick some up when we get there, nothing is worse than sitting on a tarmac and all your diapers are underneath you and you're sitting there for 2 hours. So I try to have as many diapers as possible.
Yeah.
So in my main bag, I have like a whole stack of gallon Ziploc bags stuffed in the bottom. But one of those I will keep diapers and wipes on top handy. I also will put an extra outfit, not for just the baby, but also for you. Because as you just explained, spit up, spill drinks, you're going to want it.
Yeah.
Even if it's just, I try to pack something small, like a pair of leggings, an extra t-shirt for baby, just like an extra pair of pajamas, something. I might get flack for this, but I'm usually by myself and I usually have older toddlers with me. If I'm on a row by myself and my children, or if I am in the middle seat and I have a kid on the window, I will turn and just change them on the seat. It's not worth trying to change a baby in the bathroom of an airplane.
Yeah.
They're so small.
I mean,
they don't even fit anyway.
If you're able to do it, yeah. I mean, there's nowhere to put them. I mean, there's not really a counter, and you don't want to put them on the floor, and yeah.
So lots of lap and seat changes, and then your Ziplocs will come in handy because if you have a smelly diaper, just throw in your bag until they come around to pick up garbage.
Yeah.
If you have a kid that is newly potty trained, just put them in a pull up. Just do it. I hate to, but so often you get delayed on the tarmac and they don't let you get up, or you have turbulence and they don't let you get up.
Yep.
So
and they're stuck and they have to go and there's nothing you can do.
Just put them in a pull up. It makes life so much easier.
Yes, agree. Completely agree. I thankfully haven't had any issues with this, but I have issues with it, but my children haven't had any issues with it. Just in case, having Dramamine in bags in case they get sick on the plane, especially if it's their first time flying and you don't know how they're going to do. This is obviously a good practice for the car as well if you're going on a long car ride and they've never been on a car ride that, that long, I do get queasy on a plane. So I definitely have Dramamine with me.
Yeah, I ordered a bunch of the blue hospital throw bags on Amazon. My kids get pretty car sick on long drives, so I just like keep them in the front of their backpacks. So luckily pretty they're usually okay on flights.
Mhm.
It's the car we have to worry about, but usually if we're flying to see my family, we're still driving for a couple hours, so it's
Yeah.
there regardless.
Yeah. 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 I did want to add to you earlier, you said, kind of adopt the mindset of surviving, not thriving. And there are good people there are still good people in this world. And yes, you're going to run into people that are jerks and they're going to be like ugly to you about your kids. If your kids are crying or if your kids are doing something, or if something happens and you have an accident, and there are going to be those people, but there are also really nice people that will immediately jump to help you. And, I think I learned to just don't be too proud to accept the help. If they ask you if you need help and you need help, just say, yes, I really appreciate it. Yes, I need help. Same thing with the flight attendants. If the flight attendants are helping you, just be really, really appreciative of the help that they give you, because I don't know how they do it, to be honest with you, because I couldn't be a flight attendant with the way that people act these days. And so, just obviously ignore the rude people, focus on your child and whatever's going on. And then, just really soak in the people that are there that will help you, and be considerate to everybody that's around you and appreciative of anybody that's helpful. So,
I agree. Knock on wood. We haven't had anybody that's been super ugly to us anytime. I always seem to find a fellow parent or grandparent
Mhm.
that they will ask before I even like am to the point that I like need to ask.
Yes.
But I also find that if I'm being proactive about my baby crying, like maybe I'll stand up in the aisle and try to rock them, and people can see that I'm doing everything in my power, they're going to be a lot more understanding because they've been there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know now, now that I have kids that are a little bit older, that you don't have the same, I mean, not that they don't have bad days and have their own little types of meltdowns, but it's not quite the same situation. I'm always super sensitive to, other moms or parents that I see that their kids are just not having a good day, and try to help as much as I can without being like, I don't want to interfere,
Yeah.
or overstep, but at the same time, I usually, can I help? Is there something I can do to help? Because it's
Well, I
hard
think, yeah.
when you're
And I think
juggling all of that.
for older kids too, like if my 8-year-old is kicking the seat in front of us nonstop for 2 hours, I would expect a dirty like comment or
Yeah,
glare
for
or
sure.
something. But if
I'm
like,
going to give them a dirty look.
well, and if it's
Stop
my
that.
kid, I'm gonna like after the second time, I'm gonna switch sheets or I'm gonna do something. That person in front of us is gonna be a lot more understanding than
Hmm.
if you're not addressing it as the parent.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. We did have a couple of things we wanted to, which is mostly, I think we've kind of mostly covered it, but traveling in the car versus in the plane. We did talk about making sure you have stuff available for car sickness. And then also just making sure you have plenty of snacks in the car, and that if it's if you're driving 10 hours, make sure you do plenty of breaks, especially when they're little and they need to get out and stretch their legs and just get some of that pent up energy out. That's really helpful.
Yes, when we drive to the beach every year, there's a Chick-fil-A in West Virginia that's kind of like our pit stop. And on the way down, we'll get breakfast there. But on the way home, it's a good like dinner, like the kids need an hour at the play place kind of stop.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's just like something that we like aim for and plan around. If the kids are asleep, we're gonna just keep driving.
Right.
But just trying to kind of like whether you stop at a park and let them run for 10 minutes, or if someone needs to go potty, everybody goes potty. So you're all getting out and stretching your legs,
Yeah.
things like that.
I'll never forget. So we almost always drive unless we just have a very short amount of time. we drive to my husband's family that lives in Indiana. We drive from, the Charlotte area up to Indiana. And it's usually, if without too many stops, it's probably like 9 to 10 hours, depending on traffic. But with a 2 and 4-year-old, and the 2-year-old just potty trained and insisted on going to the bathroom every hour, it took us 13 or 14 hours. It was the longest trip ever, and it was excruciating. But, those are just the kind of things that you have to just try to be patient, because I wanted her to just wear a pull-up and she was not having it. I was like, just wear a pull-up. It's fine. You can go. It's okay. It's okay. No, she was not.
I think if you are road tripping with kids, to tack on an extra couple hours every single time. Yeah. Especially like long drives. So for us to get to Charleston, I think we could realistically do it in 10 or 11 hours, but we plan on 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Same kind of deal. Harper decided she was going to potty train the week before our beach vacation one year. So we threw the little tiny potty in the back of the car because it was a lot easier to put that on the side of the road than to get all the way off the freeway to put it on the side, like at the on-ramp, than to go like clear into town, find a restroom for a little teeny tiny little, probably not even worth a stop.
Yeah, we had Lena that was 4. And so she still had to stop, and so Ella was the little sister that wanted to be like her big sister. And so every single time, like, there was no, Ella, you stay in the car. We'll be right back. No, she was having none of it. She had to go to the bathroom too every single time. Oh my gosh, that was tough.
We're at the point now though that when someone goes, we make everybody go, because if not, we'll get back in the car and the other one will be like, we'll be 10 minutes down the road. I need to go potty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, now that the kids are older, we're like, if you don't go, then it's too bad for you. Like, you need to go now while we're stopped. And then, because we don't have to do that anymore. We don't have to stop every hour. Obviously, we stop a couple of times and that's enough. So, kind of getting towards kind of wrapping up a little bit, what are some general travel tips that you would have, mention to parents, or just kind of things to think about that you may not be thinking about if this is the first time that you're traveling with your kids?
If you are switching time zones, especially if it's like a 2 or 3 hour time zone, I would gradually shift nap and bedtime by 5 to 10 minutes each day for like a week or 2. It's not always easy to do. It's not always feasible, especially if we're just going out. By the time we get, like, we're only there for 5 days, trying to adjust to come back, it doesn't work. But if your kids are like really set on a schedule, this will help, especially when they're babies. Older kids, I think they adjust better. So just kind of knowing your kids, I guess.
Well, I mean, I'm almost 47 and I don't adjust well. So
we do this for time change too, actually, the whole week leading up. So by Friday or Saturday, it's about 30-40 minutes earlier for bedtime than it would have been the week prior, just because I don't want to deal with it. And it's a good excuse to send them to bed early.
Right.
On the days that we're fighting, button heads. Hello, my children, people.
Yeah.
I would work with a travel agent.
Yeah. Seriously.
So for one, like, when I first started flying with Calder, I didn't realize that I didn't have to call the airline and wait on hold for hours and hours and hours. I could just show up at the gate or show up at the airport with my ticket and say I need a lap child, and they would look at his birth certificate and add him, instead of me like going through all the hoops online or over the phone of trying to add it. You don't need to do that. Maybe for an international flight, but for domestic,
it's not necessary.
But then that also brings me to my next point of, make sure I always travel with a copy of my children's birth certificates with me. I've talked to other people and they are never asked. So maybe it's just the airports we fly, or maybe it's because I'm by myself a lot. But 9 times out of 10 when we travel, I'm asked to see birth certificates.
Really? I've
Yes.
never, like, knock on wood. Like, I know my kids are older at this point, so I probably won't, but
So maybe for a lot of them, it's because they're trying to verify that my baby is under 2 and if they're free.
yeah.
So they'll look for that. But also just now, I know people who travelize with notarized notes that they're flying, like that they're traveling without their spouse. I don't go that far. I just take the birth certificates. I also, before I was a travel agent, didn't really understand that I should confirm with the hotel if there's pack and play.
Yeah.
I know of 3 instances specifically. 2 are not booked by me. 1 was booked by me, but I called and the night shift person assured me they had one and they did not. I should have confirmed with the morning manager, I guess. Most rental properties like Disney, they have them,
Yeah.
but it's so great to start your vacation with no sleep because you were worried about your child falling out of bed all night
Yeah.
long.
Yeah. That's not fun at all.
What else? I would just like managing your expectations. Just because you're on vacation doesn't mean your kids are going to act any differently. In
Yeah.
fact,
They still follow the same schedules.
yeah, they could be worse because they could be hangry or
Stimulated.
overstimulated. Everything's new. So that's my whole surviving, not thriving. And
Yeah.
then just like knowing your kids best, like I know that my kids are really good in the morning and we're pretty reliable that we can get stuff done before lunch. But after lunchtime, the baby gets tired because she's ready for a nap. Or so like I just dealt with this with a family that I booked a trip for in at Zion National Park.
Mm-hmm.
She said that her kids like to sleep in. So I said, well, let's maybe opt for the sunset hike over the sunrise hike
Right.
because it's a lot easier. She knows that her kids do better at night. Her kids are also older, so they could handle it instead
Yeah.
of trying to wrangle them out of bed at 5 a.m. for a
Yeah.
6 a.m. hike.
Yeah. 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 Same thing. Like you said, I mean, even, whenever we're doing any kind of trip, Disney or Universal or all inclusives, whatever, but, if there's some type of reservation that we're talking about, if your family is not morning people, then don't don't schedule like a 7:30 breakfast because it's not going to go well.
I'd also say stay on top of food. It's especially in a different time zone. Your kids may be hungry at 3 p.m. because their inner clock is telling them it's time for dinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
So be mental, like even set an alarm on your phone, like, hey, we need to eat dinner.
Yeah.
Because in a theme park, we'll be go, 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 and we'll forget that we haven't eaten anything and it's 1 o'clock and we
Or
didn't eat.
water, even water, but just having
Yeah.
something to drink, taking a break, something. And if your kid crashes at 3 o'clock every day, like doesn't matter like what it is that they're doing, they hit a wall, then don't plan something for 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or don't have something that and be upset because they don't act like you want them to act because they're still on their schedule. They're
Yes.
human, you know. And I think littles, that they have a nap schedule typically, and they may start to get tired and they may start to get cranky, but they may be overstimulated. They may see that there's a lot of other things going on that look more fun, and their naps may not happen when you want them to happen. And you just kind of have to roll with it and let them crash when they crash.
Yes, this is when I like to find a quiet corner with the stroller or a dark show especially when we're at Disney, and just let them stroller nap because it's sometimes 10 minutes is better than nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really funny. My sister-in-law says something that always made me laugh. And when we were talking about the kids when they were little, you talk about how when you're talking about a spaceship that's coming back to Earth, and they have to hit just right. So they kind of come in and they get back into the Earth's atmosphere. And there's that sometimes they will bounce, they'll bounce off the atmosphere because they didn't hit it just right. And so she used to say, that naps on vacation were like bouncing off the atmosphere because you think basically they ended up where they were like, it didn't hit. They just didn't, for whatever reason, they just you missed that timing. They just missed it by just a minute or so, where they were almost there and then something got their attention and it woke them right back up and it was too late. Didn't work. So
that is always, yes, that is the perfect analogy.
It always made me laugh. I think that's all for today. Thank you, Krystle, for your expertise. You're such a pro. Like I said, I wish I'd had a travel advisor like you to help me plan whenever my kids were little, because there's so many ideas that you have that I'm like, that's genius. And of course, I didn't think of those things. I just didn't. I was overwhelmed with getting the kids situated and getting to where I needed to go and all of those, all those things. And there's so many of your tips that help make it so much easier.
We only skim the surface too. So you guys can always reach out by email or send us a DM and
absolutely
I can chat through your specific questions, because every family is different and we'll do things. What works for me might not work for you, but we can figure it out together.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening. Until next week. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Wanderlust and Wishes.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform.
And remember, the world is full of wonders waiting to be explored. Until next time, happy travels.
Bye for now.